what's going on with y'all? It's your boy NeohXO, and today I'm going to be talking about Black Clover opening 13. It seems like a lot of people think that Black Clover opening 13 has a lot of spoilers in it. There's a lot of people who are manga readers who think that there is a lot of spoilers, and there are also people on the other side who basically think that the anime only people aren't going to understand what's going on in the opening. The reason that I believe that a lot of people think there's a lot of spoilers in this opening is just because the way that Black Clover typically does its openings. Most of the time, Black Clover does not have this many spoilers in it. I'm just gonna say the facts. Now, that's not to say Black Clover openings didn't have spoilers in the past, but in the past, they did not have this many big spoilers. Let's take opening 12 for example. Opening 12, basically it had hints of things to come. Like, for example, we had a episode that was dedicated to basically having the captains fight, and in the opening of opening 12, basically we see them fighting, but it was very vague. We didn't even see that scene in the actual anime. It kind of was just alluded to. Now, when it comes to opening 13, things are pretty much one for one from the manga. It's not just alluding to things that happen. It's basically one for one, if I'm being honest. Like, there's a shot with Zenon going against Yuno, and that shot is basically taken directly from the manga. Now, I do suspect that they are going to add some stuff to the scene, hopefully, because in the manga they had a little more things going on in that scene. I mean, I could just go ahead and say it. I'm pretty sure anyone on this video already read the manga, so if you didn't read the manga and you're anime only and you don't want to be spoiled, this is not the video for you. But yeah, like in the opening for opening 13, like the scene with Zenon basically fighting against Yuno, in the manga you can see like people being punctured by the bones, but in the opening you can't see that. They're kind of not there. I hope that in the actual episode that they are there, because they were there in the manga. They might censor it a little bit. They censored episode 158 a little bit, not too much, but they definitely censored it a little bit, which is to be expected, because that has to air on TV, so I'm not even upset or anything about that. Looking at it from a strictly anime only perspective, pretty much they're probably not gonna know what's going on in this opening. I mean, basically they can figure out like some stuff, like by watching the opening they might be like less surprised by, like for example Zenon versus Yuno, Vonica versus Noelle. Maybe an anime only fan wouldn't have known that, but to me that's not really a huge spoiler because we've seen that done before. Like, we've seen the anime basically allude to who's gonna be fighting who. But I guess what really made people think that this contained a lot of spoilers, like I said, is that some of these shots are basically one for one from the manga, which is not always the case with Black Clover openings. Like, sometimes Black Clover openings have just cool animation that, just some typical stereotypical anime stuff, like basically some cool anime poses and some cool music, not really much to do with the actual content of what's going on in the art. Basically, like something like Asta strikes a cool pose or something, and it has like a still shot of Asta, then it switches over to another character dramatically. Those kind of anime openings, stuff we've come to expect in anime openings. But honestly, being honest, basically all anime openings nowadays have spoilers in them. Like, I remember they used to not have as many spoilers as they do now, and I think that's what's really getting people. I think people just need to get used to it, because I think these are the new standard of anime openings. Basically, they're gonna get you hyped for what's coming up. Ultimately, it was decided by the studio what they wanted to include or not. They know what they're doing, but some of the things that I can understand if someone has a problem with, or I can understand why someone would say it was a spoiler, is I'm gonna just touch on a couple scenes, because like I said, I'm gonna do a breakdown soon, so subscribe for that. But Noelle's mermaid form, they did not need to include that. Now, they did blur it out, and what I suspect that they're going to do is make another version of this opening like they have done in the past. Like with opening 10, they had 3 versions of opening 10. I can see them making another version of opening 13 and unblurring her mermaid form. But come on, guys, like, clearly that's Noelle. Who else would it be? It's clearly Noelle, and they showed her form in this opening, it's not a big deal to me, honestly. None of it's a big deal to me because I read the manga, but I just have to be fair. And if people say that it contains a lot of spoilers, I have to look at that and basically see where they're coming from. So I can see where they're coming from with the Noel form. They didn't really need to include that, but they did. I have no problem with it, but I can see why some people would have a problem with it. Other people had a problem with Noct being in there. I don't have a problem with Noct being in there simply because he was there for like a couple of seconds, and literally no anime only fan is gonna know who Noct is. If an anime only sees that, they're probably gonna think he's basically evil or something. Honestly, they're not gonna have no clue who Noct is. So I didn't mind them including Noct in there. I don't think that's even a big deal. Maybe them including Lieb in there might have been a big deal. They didn't need to include Lieb, but I mean, they could have included Lieb. It was kind of a gray area with Lieb. Now Lysita, no one's gonna know who Lysita is, so it's not really that big of a deal. But if you look at Lieb, you can kind of tell that that's anti-magic devil. You know, that's Asta's anti-magic devil. You can kind of tell that. Not everyone is going to be able to tell that, but the more observant people, like if people actually watch the opening and, you know, watch it every time, eventually they're going to be like, oh, that is definitely Asta's anti-magic devil, you know. But then on the other side of the spectrum, you have people who just skip the openings. I watch the openings every time I watch the episodes because it gets me hyped for the episodes, but they do have people who skip the opening. Like there's people who will probably watch the opening like once and then never watch it again. But honestly though, if we think that these openings are spoilers, it's probably because we read the manga and we're just not used to seeing the manga in the anime openings as much as they are nowadays. But like I said, I think this is going to be a trend and I don't mind it simply due to the fact that this opening was amazing. So I already read the manga anyway, so it's like this is just more hype. I just finally get to see it animated. I love this opening. Really good opening. Now, if I'm getting more technical, because, you know, some people care about technicality, some people care about opinions. So I gave y'all my opinion. Now time to get technical. Okay, so let's talk about previous openings and get down into it. So opening 10 lasted for about 12 episodes. So that's a pretty decent amount of episodes. And they had 3 different versions of opening 10. Now, like I said, I definitely can see multiple versions of opening 12, like maybe a version where they unblur some of the stuff, because even though Lysita was included in this opening, she was heavily blurred. So maybe if she was unblurred, I can see people would immediately think that that's Asta's mom, just like they did in the manga before it was actually confirmed that it was Asta's mom. People just assumed because of the way she looked, but she's blurred out, so I can see another version where she's not blurred out. Opening 12, which is the most recent opening before this opening, lasted for about 16 episodes. So let's just use that as a basic benchmark, since that's the most recent one, so we could use that to see maybe where the studio is headed and maybe what they think. So basically 267 is around the chapter where Lieb was introduced, and that's basically where the opening decided to stop including things from the manga. So 267 minus 229. 229 is the chapter where they started using this opening in the anime. That's where they started adapting this arc and started using the anime. So 267 minus 229 is 38. And so far what we've seen from episode 158, they adapted about 3 chapters. So that seems like a lot of chapters. So what I did is kind of minus a 0.5 off of there. So instead of doing 3 chapters every episode, let's say they adapt 2.5 episodes. So 38 divided by 2.5, that is about 15 episodes. So going off of what we know from opening 12, they used it for 16 episodes, and going off of my math, that would leave 15 episodes. So if they use this opening for 15 episodes, then it absolutely does make sense that they included up until the point in the manga that they included in the opening. So doing the math, it does make sense. So it's not really that big of a deal up into the amount they included. I guess basically what people had the most amount of problems with is that they showed scenes, I guess, from the manga, which, hey, it is what it is. Could they have done an anime only opening that didn't include scenes from the manga? Yeah, they could have, but it's not really that big of a deal, because going off of the math that I did, it just makes sense. It literally makes sense. If they use it for 15 episodes like they used opening 12 for 16, then if they adapt the amount of content at the pace that they are currently going, then it's going to add up perfectly with the opening. And then after about 15 or so episodes, they can switch over to a entirely different opening. So if you want to do even further math, 15 divided by 4, there's 4 episodes in a month. That's like 3 months. So yeah, we're gonna have this opening for about 3 months, give or take, if the math is accurate. The math is a little rough because it's assuming they're gonna continue at the same pace that they're going. And if they are, that means they did include the right amount of content from the manga in this opening. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. I'm very curious to know what you guys think on this topic. But other than that, it's been your boy NeohXO, and I'm out.